Baruch haba. Welcome to Messianic Moment Ministries. I'm Stephen Bruck, and you know who you are. On this 12th day of March 2021. Well, we're going to do the Shabbat parashah reading, and these last chapters complete not just the detailed narrative of the building of the Tabernacle, but the book of Exodus as well. And as you may have noticed, this Shabbat we have a double parashah. The details of the Tabernacle, from the itemization of the articles to the size and breadth of the coverings to the number of support beams, is exacting. We are told about every single item in such detail that it is almost easy to picture them in our minds. Moses asked the people to voluntarily give the materials needed, and they give so willingly that he later has to tell them to stop because they gave so much more than what was needed. The workers were also volunteers, and God gave divine wisdom to them in order that they could perform all the work required. Once everything was done and put in place, Moses saw that the people had done everything just as God said, and he blessed them. The book ends with the tabernacle completely put together and God's Shekinah so filling the tent that Moses could not even enter it. And when we come to the end of a Torah book, we say, Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazak, which means be strong, and let us be strengthened. Well, every time I read these last chapters of Exodus and drag myself, sorry, but that's the truth, drag myself through every single exacting detail of the tabernacle, I always wonder why such a detailed listing. Why do we need to know exactly how many beams, how many footings for the beams, how many rings in the curtains, and so on and so on and so on? I mean, will knowing this help me to become saved? Will knowing the exact number of pomegranates that were attached to the Kohen Gadol's robe, will that secure my place in heaven? Well, obviously not. So why do we have to know this? And while we're at it, why do we have to know with such exacting details in Ezekiel and in Revelation when the temple is measured? Yeah. If you think that now I will give you the answer, well, you're wrong. I don't have an answer. That's why I keep wondering about it. Duh. But I do know one thing, and that is this. It is there for a reason. Just because I don't know what that reason is, doesn't mean there isn't one. And my acceptance of this condition, in other words, I have no idea why, but I know it's there for a reason, is what we call faith. Maybe one day, who knows, I might read this and find some divine revelation in the numbers that are there. Now, don't get me wrong, I do not believe that numerology is a legitimate form of biblical exegesis. But, on the other hand, I do recognize that God often plays around with words and numbers, so there can be a meaningful message somewhere in all these details. I just don't see it yet. And the reason I said I don't see it yet is because I will not allow my not understanding today to interfere with trusting that one day I will understand. It may not be until I am dead and resurrected, at which time it probably won't matter to me, but in any event I'll know. Someday. And until then, I will keep reading it, no matter how boring or tedious it feels at the time. And yes, I confess, there are things in the Bible I find a little tedious to get through. But I read them anyway. It comes back to that faith thing, trusting that one day God will reveal to me whatever message he has in there, because he wouldn't have put it there if it didn't mean something. And that is all we need to know. You see, that which is referred to as the Word of God, the Bible, is not entirely the words God said. In fact, the places where God actually speaks directly to the people are mainly in Exodus and Leviticus. Throughout these books, we read at the beginning of almost every new chapter the words, "And God spoke to Moses, saying," indicating that what Moses then relates to the people are the exact words from God. We also read God's direct words in the books of the prophets, where he tells the prophet exactly what to say to the people. Almost everywhere else we read where people relate that which God has said in the Torah. The New Covenant has absolutely no direct instructions from God, other than in Matthew 17 when he speaks at the Transformation on the mountain and tells the apostles with Yeshua to listen to him. That's it. Everything else in the New Covenant, especially the epistles from Shaul to his congregations of newly converting Gentiles, is a person relating what God said in the Tanakh, but it is not God speaking. Faithful trusting is demonstrated by accepting that you won't understand everything in the Bible, not now and maybe never, but knowing what is in there, especially where God himself is talking, is important. So if you've been raised as a Christian and found your biblical training mainly within the New Covenant, you really need to consider giving the new a bit of a rest and getting into the old for a while, because that is not just the Word of God, but that is the only place you will find the very words from God. Well, thank you for being here, and please share these messages, subscribe, and I always welcome your comments. You can subscribe by clicking on the little icon here in the corner on YouTube, but please go back to the website, click that subscribe button in the right-hand margin there as well. Well, that's it for this week. So, my friends, Lehitrot and Shabbat Shalom.